Hello, everyone, and welcome to SL346. I am Dorian Miette. I'll be your instructor for this class. I was just looking at the roster, and it looks like most of you are new, or at least new to me. So I'm going to take a few extra minutes to tell you a little bit about myself and how I generally do things in class so that we can get started on the right foot. And I'm going to go over the syllabus with you, talk a little bit about the class and the expectations so that nobody falls behind and we can learn a little bit about each other. So first things first, as I mentioned, I'm Dorian Miette. I have been teaching with Carolina University since 2019, and I love being a part of the program. I teach, how many classes? A lot of them in the Deaf Studies department. So if you're part of the program, chances are you'll see me again. Some of the common ones I teach are the ASL to English and English to ASL, as well as the Deaf Studies capstone and a lot of the cultural stuff. So this is not my primary job. I also work full-time at Harvard University as an accessibility consultant. So my area of expertise is really in the area of disability and the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and all of that kind of stuff. My specialty has always been in deaf and deaf-blind, and I do use American Sign Language. However, as you've noticed, I'm conducting my lecture in spoken English today instead of ASL, and that is actually very intentional. When I'm teaching, sometimes you'll see me sign, and sometimes you'll see me do lectures in spoken English. Again, this was very intentional. I feel like there's certain content that I want to focus on language, and then there's other content that I want to focus on content. And I think it's important that you get the message, and I want to make sure that you're not potentially losing any of the content because of a language issue or whatever, because I'm not exactly sure where everyone is in terms of their ASL. And I'm not grading your ASL. And this course in particular has other criteria. So that's not what the focus of this class is. So therefore, I'm kind of taking that off the table. I want to grade you on content. So that being said, if you'd like to know a little bit more about me, I encourage you to look at the syllabus if you haven't done so already. I did email it to everybody before the class, but if you were late joining or just haven't had a chance, take a look at it. Most of the links in there, all of the links should work. So there is a link to my bio on the CU website, as well as my LinkedIn page if you want to know more about what I do, because it's kind of niche and the work that I do at Harvard's a little different, weird, whatever. So I think that I ended up getting connected with CU through Dr. Zimmerman, who actually had done some interpreting work with me years ago at Harvard, and we just became really good friends. And I think I bring, I hope I do, bring a unique perspective to the information that we're doing here in the program. So for me, it's not all about interpreting. And I'm the first to admit, I'm not an interpreter, never have been. Although I've worked extensively with interpreters and I understand the nuances of American Sign Language, so I can certainly speak to that. But I'm not an interpreter, and I'm not here for that purpose. So just to be clear, what I am here to do is to fill in the gaps, because to be an effective communicator, to be an effective whatever you are in this field, whether it's an instructor or you end up being an advocate or an interpreter, you need to know more than just American Sign Language. You need to be a master with English. You need to be a master in understanding deaf culture, which leads us to this class. So this class in particular, we're going to dive a little bit deeper and talk about some of the issues that connect in deaf culture, because as most of you know, it's not just about deafness. There's a lot of intersectionality, and and especially in the world that we currently live in, and in 2024, the deaf culture and the world has changed significantly. Even in the time of my career, even in the last 20 years, it's changed so much. So part of what I want to do is give you some of that perspective and also have you have the chance to explore some of these kind of things on your own too, because some of this work can be very challenged. It can be very complex. It can be very nuanced. And I tell every student that I'm working with that you will forever be learning. So don't think that when you graduate, you're done. You're never really done. In fact, I've been doing this work for actually 20 years now. I graduated with my master's in 2004. So I've been doing this work for at the graduate level, at least. My bachelor's degree is even longer than that. So my bachelor's degree is in speech language pathology and audiology. And then my master's degree is in vocational rehabilitation counseling, specializing in deafness. And I did like extra work to get that special certification. And then I did begin working on my doctorate, and that was in higher education leadership. So it's been kind of all over the place, and I have little pockets of information across the board, but that's a little bit about me. So let's talk a little bit about this class. So as you know, all the classes and all of our work is, well, first and foremost, I need to take a sip. First and foremost, you will see me drinking coffee frequently and in copious amounts while I'm teaching. Although this is decaf. So you can, one of the things that I would like to think I'm very good at, and other students have told me that they appreciate this, is that I am very attainable. So if at any time you have questions, if you just want to brainstorm ideas with me or whatever, you need help, I urge you to reach out to me. I am very accessible by email. I'm very responsive. Normally in our syllabus, we say to our students that, to give us a good 24 hours to get back to you. And generally speaking, that is true. If there's something going on in my life personally that I'm away from email or unable to, I will generally email the class and let you know that I'm going to be offline for a period of time, and what the backup plan is for that if you have something emergent. If you can reach me by emailing me at me@d at carolinau.edu, and you should all have that email because I've already emailed you. There's also a link in the syllabus to my Calendly page. You can automatically schedule a time with me whenever you want, and that's just by clicking the link, choose a time that works for you, and then we'll connect via Zoom. It should send you a Zoom link automatically to be able to do that once you go through that link to schedule something. And also, I try to host weekly open Zoom meeting where kind of office hours, and you can drop by. You don't need to schedule anything, and that can be formal or not formal. Usually for office hours, I don't do it like a class, but I usually will have a topic or some information that I can share with you. You are not obligated to show up. You're not penalized if you don't. But I do think that having some face-to-face time and being able to chat about things sometimes can be very helpful. So I do leave that open, that if you're available to do that, you can pop in. Sometimes it's very casual and we just chat and meet, and we can network with each other or get to know each other, or you can get to know your classmates depending on who pops in. Let me know what times work. I know everyone has very challenging schedules. Some people work during the days, some people have kids, and so they're very busy at night. It just runs the gamut. Usually I try to do those kind of late afternoon, so those office hours are usually around 4 or 5 p.m. for a little bit to let you drop in. If I can't do a full hour, I usually at least give a half hour, maybe once or twice a week, so that you have an opportunity to just pop in casually, ask a question, get clarification on something, or, like I said, pick my brain. Up to you. So I'm kind of open to whatever. So the beginning of the syllabus talks a little bit about what the course is about and what to expect. This class in particular is, like I said, talks a lot really about the kind of intersectionality of what the global deaf experience is. It focuses on deaf people living in the United States, but as the course description says, it says it's designed for individuals who may or may not have had prior experience. So if you don't have any experience, particularly with deaf culture, or you're newer to this, and there might be some things in this class that might surprise you, and that's fine. So how do we do this? Well, in this class, I know that Go React is often used very frequently. I know Dr. Z really loves using Go React. I'm not a big fan of Go React. I can never get it to like work right. So I don't use it for lectures or anything. The only time I use Go React is if you're in one of my ASL classes, because you sort of have to do that if you're going to be interpreting for me to present a stimulus and for me to see your interpreting skill. Other than that, all of my other classes are going to be done in this format, how I'm going to describe. So you're going to do everything in the LMS. If there's any kind of assignment or any guidance or anything I want you to do, everything is in the LMS. So always go there first to see. As far as these lectures, I load these, I create them in Camtasia, I upload them to my YouTube channel, and then there will be a YouTube link in the assignment in the LMS for you to follow. Now, the trickier part with not using Go React is that, well, if you're just watching a YouTube video, then I don't necessarily know that you've watched it, and we are required to mark you for participation and to sort of have an engaging whatever. So how do I do that? Well, I do that in a couple of different ways. One might be a discussion post. I might post a discussion post and encourage you to have a discussion on the content or the lecture. The other way that I do that is by having you post a comment in the assignment in the LMS. So within the assignment, there's always like, you can leave a comment, and I usually will have you put more than just, I watched this video, but something, what you learned, or sometimes I drop a little Easter egg somewhere in the video, and to see if everyone actually watched it or if they just like blew through it. And if you can answer the question that I threw in there, then I know you actually watched the whole video. So I encourage you to do that. So everything is pretty much going to be there. Always go to the LMS. This is the book that we're going to be using. It's called Deaf Communities, Deaf Culture, Exploring Deaf Communities in the United States, 2nd edition. And there's a picture of it. If you haven't found it yet, it should be in the bookstore. You can also get it on Amazon or whatever, wherever you're getting your books. I think there's a couple different versions of this book too. The one that I have actually has an online link for both instructors and students. There's like a code and a thing in the back that you can go onto the website, and there's like supplemental materials and stuff. If you're interested in checking that out and your edition has that, feel free to do that. There's a lot of really great tools for like notes and kind of summaries of each chapter, which may help you. Certainly not required, but it can be very helpful. I know that the one for the instructors is very helpful for me. So then there's just some basic stuff about your required resources. I think most of you are very familiar with, if you're interpreting, if you're signing, things like that. I need to be able to see you. I need to be able to hear you. I need to be able to, so make sure that you got a strong enough Wi-Fi signal, that your lighting is good, that your attire looks good, that I can see you, I can see your hands, all of that good stuff. Your course objectives and the course learning outcomes are all detailed here. And then, of course, then the schedule is a little bit more detailed in terms of what you're going to be doing each week, what is the kind of the content. And then I don't go super into detail on the syllabus for the simple reason that all of the details are in the LMS, and I might need to change it for various reasons. So I don't put it in the syllabus because I don't want it to be confusing. But in general, this is how the flow of the week is going to go. I usually do my lectures in advance. So these are recorded several days, possibly a week or two, before you actually see them. In fact, this is being recorded a week and a half before it's actually going to go live on the website. So it's August 17th for me right now. So you're not going to be seeing this until the first day of class. However, so I load all of my lectures, usually, unless I'm really, really, really stressed that week and I can't do the second lecture just yet. Usually everything goes in by Sunday night. You will see the links live of those assignments for both lectures, because there's 2 lectures per week. There's a Monday lecture and a Wednesday lecture. Now, even though they're both available to you immediately, you don't necessarily have to watch them immediately. The Monday lecture, obviously, watch first. And if I can't do the Wednesday lecture immediately, then it will be posted in time for you to watch it on Wednesday. But they should both be available early, because I generally get them done early. So the Monday lecture will be available first thing Monday morning. You will always have at least 48 hours to watch each lecture. Like I said, it's a YouTube video. I do that also intentionally to make it easy for you to watch the video wherever you are and on any device. Because it's a YouTube video, you can watch it on your laptop, you can watch it on your phone, you can watch it on your iPad, or whatever device you happen to be using works for me. Whereas Go React, I feel, is not as friendly for that kind of thing. So I purposely don't put my lectures in Go React, because I want you to be able to watch them if you're on a break at work, or you're with your, you're busy with your kids, but you can throw some headphones on and while you're cooking dinner and whatever. I'm a mom too. I get it. So that's the point of a YouTube video. So you can always watch those. You can also stop it and restart it. So if you can only watch 10 minutes of a lecture and then you need to go back to it later, the YouTube video makes it much easier for you to be able to do that and pick up where you left off. Once you're done, then the instructions, like I said, will be in the assignment as to how I want you to respond to that lecture. It might just be a simple comment. It might be a discussion post, at which point you can make time to go and sit at your computer or your laptop or what have you, and then complete the assignment so that I know that you watched the lecture and you can contribute to it. Like I said, you have 48 hours to participate and do that before I will have to grade you. The Wednesday lecture will also be available first thing, and you'll have 48 hours to watch that as well. So what does that mean? The Monday lecture, you will need to participate and respond by Wednesday. And for the Wednesday lecture, you'll need to respond and participate by Friday at noontime for both. So lectures I'm always going to want to see your responses by noon on the day that it's due. All other assignments are always due, with a few exceptions. Discussion posts are a little bit different because I need to make those due a little bit earlier, usually on Wednesday or Thursday, so that if there's going to be like some kind of interaction and you need to like talk with each other, then obviously I need to make it due a little bit sooner so that you have time to answer posts. So the initial post would probably be due Thursday by noon, and then you still have a couple days to respond to your colleagues' posts within the discussion forum. So discussion forums are a little bit sooner, but 90% of the time, all of your other assignments, your weekly assignments, and you will have some kind of a skills development assignment that will be due weekly, and those are always due Sunday night by 11:59 p.m. So right before midnight. Once in a while, if there's a holiday or something goes wonky in the LMS or something like that, I might adjust the deadline for the assignment. So always check when it's due, but usually it's Sunday night. Sometimes I do give an extension if there's extraneous circumstances, but usually it's Sunday night at 11:59. If you're having tech problems, and first of all, minor soapbox moment. I will say, don't wait till the last minute to do your work, because if you're messaging me and I see your email come in at 11:42 p.m. that you're having tech issues and your assignment is due in 10 minutes, I'm going to be like, why are you working on this right now? So I am going to give you a little bit of a tough love moment if you do that to me. You're not going to get an extension of your assignment out of me because of your poor planning. However, I do understand that sometimes things happen, and therefore life circumstances sometimes are an issue, and something may happen with our families, and we get ill, things like that. Also in the syllabus, if you do reach out to me in advance and let me know that something is going on and request an extension on something, you need more time, or you're struggling with something, I urge you to contact me and just we'll figure something out. Again, I'm not going to forgive poor planning on your part, but if you have something going on, I get that life sometimes happens, and I don't want to penalize someone's performance in the class because of something that might be happening. So if you are falling behind or something is happening that you need some help, then, reach out, talk to me about it, and we'll figure out how to get you back on track. So the first week we're going to be talking about just kind of an overview, and this one's called Deaf Culture Past and Present. We're going to talk about what is deaf culture, what does that mean. Your first assignment for week 1 is going to be a very short essay. What is your culture? And so we're going to talk a little bit about what does culture mean, and that's going to be in our second lecture. So this is just the first one and kind of an introduction to the class, but in our first lecture we're going to be talking about the first couple chapters and what does that mean. After you watch that lecture, I want you to talk about you and share with me what is your culture. And I think I've taught this class how many times? 3 or 4? Every time I've taught this class, the responses that I get from students are always very, very surprising. There are some that I think there are some students that feel very in tune with what their culture is and talk about it at length. And then there's other students that are like, I don't really have a culture, and I think that's kind of my culture. So wherever it is that you're coming from after watching that second lecture, I want you to just share with me what is your current perspective. That's your starting point. Maybe you have a really good, strong sense of what your culture is. Maybe you're very dialed into that with your family, with your history. And then other people, for various reasons, maybe are not. And so understand that whatever work that you do, you're bringing yourself into that work. So it's very, very helpful for you to understand a little bit about your own perspective and what you're bringing to the table, because having a good, solid understanding of deaf culture is going to also require that you have a good understanding of your culture and what you know and what you don't know. And a big part of this class is also going to be about acknowledging our own blind spots. And what I mean by that is that there's going to be some things that, I think we all mean well, but you only know what you've experienced. You only know what you know. You can't possibly know what you don't know. I know this sounds kind of stupid, but that really is sort of the crux of it. And a lot of people, they assume that we sort of know everything, but we don't. We're a product of our own personal experiences. And if there's something you haven't experienced before, then you can't possibly know what it's like to be in someone else's shoes or understand where they're coming from. And so this isn't going to duplicate that, because there's still no real way to know what someone else is experiencing. But sometimes hearing someone else's stories really do help us frame out and just have a little bit of a different perspective to the work that we do. I know that it's been immensely helpful for me, even talking with different colleagues who have different disability experiences. I have colleagues that are blind. I have colleagues that are in wheelchairs. I have colleagues that come from all different walks of life, and hearing their stories and just really being curious and taking the time to talk with them has been so tremendously informative to me in my career. And I think I've probably learned more through that experience than maybe a lot of other things, so it's been really great. And I urge you, this is a starting point for that if that's not something that you already do. Week 2, we're going to be talking about hearing loss and language. So this is where this is sort of like my little geeky self embraces, because as I mentioned, my bachelor's degree is in speech language pathology and audiology. So we are going to be talking a little bit about the mechanics of hearing loss, not just to talk about deafness, but what does that actually mean? What can someone actually hear? What can they actually not hear? And how does that work? I think having a better understanding of the acoustics of hearing, because very often it is not what you think it is. And a lot of people think of deafness as the absolute lack of sound. And it's so far from that. And deafness is so different. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what that actually means, so that when you're working with a deaf client, you have a better understanding of what they can hear, what can't they hear, and how can you better communicate with them knowing that information. Week 3 is going to be identity and intersectionality. So we're going to start talking a little bit about different types of identity groups, intersectionality of like that connects with deaf culture. And then we're going to be doing a consumer case study analysis. There's a lot of different, I think that kind of going through a case study and kind of breaking down a scenario, kind of like a what would you do, is one of the best ways to kind of get that understanding. So we'll be doing some of that. Week 4 is going to be deafness in the legal system. That's always a rather illuminating conversation in this class because it becomes abundantly clear going through this that the legal system is definitely does not favor those who are deaf and hard of hearing. There are a lot of challenges beyond just the obvious, and we're going to dive deeper into what that means. Week 4 is also going to be your mid-course exam. That's going to be online, obviously. I will prep you for that, and I'll do a separate lecture giving you kind of expectations on what you should expect to know. Side note, too, on this class, I mentioned before that there's a lot of supplemental materials for this book. One of the things that I don't necessarily want to apologize for, but throwing it out there, my lectures, I try to keep them, because this is an asynchronous class, I try to keep the lectures a little bit on the shorter side, but unfortunately, with this class, the book doesn't allow me to do that. It's a lengthy book, it's also a very ambitious book, and it has a lot of content, and I try to get as much of that content in as I can. They also provide the PowerPoints for the book, the supplemental materials. There's so much content for me to cover, and I try to blow through stuff and to not dwell on things that I don't need to dwell on, but there's just so much. So the lectures are lengthy. Give yourself time to go through it, and I will give you copies of all of the PowerPoints. They will be attached in the assignment in the LMS for all the lectures, so you'll have kind of like summary notes and stuff, but I'm just throwing it out there ahead of time that the lectures are probably going to be closer to, I try to keep it to 45 minutes, but sometimes it goes a little bit longer to an hour because the content is just, there's so much to get through the PowerPoint without, and I'm already a fast talker. I don't need to be talking any faster to you because that's not fair. But anyway, so going back to the mid-course exam, on week 4, you'll have copies of all those PowerPoints. You'll have all of my lectures. If you're really taking your time, if you're focusing, you're doing the lectures, you're taking your notes and stuff, that's like 90% of, that's like most of the content. Make sure you are reading the chapters, of course, but it really does, it's a companion stuff. They all go together really, really well because, like I said, I'm using what the authors provided, so they really are very well synced. Week 5, one of my favorite ones is technology and accessibility. I'm a little bit of a tech nerd. I love accessibility and technology, and this is actually a fun one. Most of the students say that they really love this project. You're basically going to be doing a little bit of searching and discovering new technology, and there's some really cool stuff out there. So stay tuned for that. Week 6 and is going to be, we're going to be talking about arts, literature, and the media, and we're going to talk about representation in the media, and you have a presentation. So again, a lot of this is going to be kind of sharing ideas and things like that. It's nothing formal. Don't be thinking formal presentation. I'm not generally very formal. And then week 7, I wrap things up by talking about career opportunities in the deaf field. And there's a final project, and you're going to upload your class notes. There is no final exam. You will have a final project. I also do that intentionally because some students test well, some students don't. So in this class, you have an opportunity to show what you know in a variety of different ways. Some are amazing with presentations. Some struggle with that. Some test well. Some don't like doing exams. So I have different ways of assessing what you know so that in the end, hopefully, your grade will be an accurate reflection of what you have learned in this class. So if your testing on the midterm didn't go so well, then hopefully your final project will be a chance for you to do really, really great. Vice versa, if you study well and you do well on the midterm and the project is a little bit of a struggle, you kind of break even. So anyway, and your class notes, Everyone always asks me about the class notes. Take notes as you go on all of your readings, on the lectures, things like that. I do ask to see them. I'm not looking for anything fancy. I'm looking to see that you did them. So if I can tell that you didn't do them, I will know. But it's an easy way to get some points, and also very important for you to stay current with the class. So make sure you're taking your notes. I don't care if you do them manually. If you're a notebook, pen and paper person, that's fine. If you take digital notes, also fine. At the end of the class, you're going to upload them, whether it be you snap pictures of your notebook and submit it, or you submit a digital file, also fine. I'm not real picky about how you do it, but I do take a look at your notes. And so the breakdown for this is going to be 300 points total for this class for so there's 2 presentations per week at 5 points per lecture, or 10 points a week just for participation, or 70 points for the entire class, 7 weeks times 10. And then for your reading notes, that's another 20 points towards your final grade. Every skill development activity or your weekly assignment is going to be worth 20 points for a total of 140. Your mid-course exam is going to be 30 points, and your final exam or your final project is going to be 40 points for a total of 300. And then obviously your percentage of points that you've achieved out of 300 is going to be whether you get an A, B, C, etc., etc. And that's pretty straightforward. Let's see, anything else? The rest of this is mostly written by CU because there's all kinds of different, how you have to upload your projects and your papers, if you need tech help. Academic misconduct, I think everyone knows that. And then lastly, there's a little statement about accommodations for students with disabilities. If you have a disability and you need an accommodation to participate in this class, I strongly suggest that you reach out to OASIS. That's the Office of Accessibility and Student Inclusion Services, and you can find their address to submit a form and contact them at carolinau.edu/OASIS, and they will walk you through the process and then connect with me about any accommodations that you might need for this class. Any other questions, feel free to let me know. So the next one, we're going to dive right in the next lecture on chapter 1. And so read chapter 1 and start taking notes, and I will see you in the next lecture. Take care, everyone. Bye.